Entrepreneurs aren't born, they are made through failures, breakthroughs, and relentless hustle. Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks, 100 plus podcast stations. This is where visionaries share their unfiltered journeys, strategies, and game changing insights. Your success story starts here. This is more than just a show, it's a movement. Watch, learn, and elevate. Hello and welcome back to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. I'm Rohit Soni, your host, and today's guest is someone whose vision for health, fitness, and resilience is changing lives around the world. And when I say around the world, yes, he's from the US, and whatever he has been doing, I've seen it close up and close. And I feel like this word should be spread all around the world about health. Maybe you're someone who's a busy CEO, founder, or someone who has been going through all, or someone who's been burnt out with your work, and you don't have time for yourself. But the worst thing is sometimes we don't even realize that we don't have time for our health. And we just keep putting ourselves in a position where we're just doing things for the sake of doing. And when you get a little older, things don't work out the way you want, and you think again, oh, health's really important. And let me tell you, everyone who's ever watching, I have seen countless people say the same. When they get a little older, they don't even realize what toll their body took. So today is about you, your health, your journey, your lifestyle. So today's guest, I'd like to invite him on the stage, is Chris Cunningham, who is the co-founder of Foresight Health Coaching. And with decades of experience, he's on a mission to redefine what true health means. So Chris, welcome on to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Love it, my friend. So Chris, tell us a little bit more about your journey, how you started Foresight Coaching, a little bit background on why you chose this field, and how long you have been doing this.
Sure. Thank you. Again, thanks for having me. Hello to your guests. So it kind of goes back. It stems back. I was a childhood actor, and then my degree from college and master's is in education. And I went into the school system briefly and realized it really wasn't going to be the fit that I needed to make the impact that I wanted to make. And at the same time, concurrently, I was training and I was working on kickboxing, just my general fitness, and a couple other emerging aspects of my own realization for health and longevity happened, at similar time. And I moved myself out of the education space and into the fitness space, which really is the same space when you look at it from a coaching perspective. It's just a different methodology. And that's how I landed here. And that was, I started my career in 1999. We're here in 2025.
What was that aha moment, according to you, when you thought, okay, this is what I'm seeing currently happening in the world, and this is why I want to have Foresight Health Coaching introduced to the world? What was that awakening for you? Because when I started my own business, I had seen that there's an opportunity and then there's a gap, and now I can fulfill the service, right? What was that for you?
Sure. So the last 10 years of my career, I've been working with people in high demand, high performing jobs. And I've seen that industry take its toll. And these are people who are ultra successful, very hardworking, well-educated, and they just can't seem to connect the loop between their success and their physical success. And they're connecting the pieces that make health work in the same way that their success works in their professional life. So I kept getting the same feedback from my clients, and it really was their time is compressed, that their restrictions on the amount of effort that they can dedicate and the bandwidth that they can give to their health kind of gets pushed aside, right? Like you mentioned earlier. And we're starting to take a toll on people who were not old enough to where it should be taking the kind of toll that it was. And I see high burnout in that industry, and it's really avoidable if you take proper steps and have a coach that kind of works you through it. The problem is that there's not really a good product or solution for a midlife professional in a high demand environment who has to, keep up with the expectations of their career, the demands of their family life, social life. And all the fitness sort of products that you see out there are really geared towards younger people or people with more time and who have time to recover. So, taking that element into account, I kind of blended all my experience and knowledge with my co-founder, and we built programming for these folks, tested it in the field, in the gym, for the last 7 years, and it's effective and it works and it's helping people.
Like, I get the idea of doing all this and then impacting others. One of the things that I feel that we should always be talking about is health. And very few people do it because they're all working all day long. They're all going through stuff. They're all building businesses. So, what's your advice for someone? I just want to know who's just running around, going in circles, but are not focusing on their health. As the CEO of the company, right? Yourself, as a co founder. So, what's your advice to those people who are just going in circles and feeling, and because they have the workload on themselves, they're unable to realize that health is also important and it's a critical part of our life. And then you see what's happening all around the world. A new type of disease happen, or something when they get a little older, something happens, and then that stops all their progress. So
Yeah.
what's your point looking from that glance, knowing that you can help those people?
Right. I mean, well, we say that, health is the great equalizer, right? It really doesn't matter how much money or wealth you've accumulated or status. At the end of the day, if you're sick, you know, you need help, right? You're sick and you can't perform, you can't function, you can't be an advocate for yourself, and you can't really help your family. You don't want to become a burden. And so the advice that I would give really, and where we see a lot of people sort of get caught in that loop, is they start out their career very hungry and they really are driven and motivated, but they get stuck in this loop of working where they move their own interests for their own health to the back burner. And it just kind of gets caught there and stuck there. It may pop out for a little while, but there's no good system that they have in place to keep it in the forefront. And we're not looking to say like these folks should be in the gym 5 days a week, training 2 hours at a time. It's not the case at all. What we're really talking about is how can you build this into your life on a day-to-day basis that feels seamless, but the cumulative effects of that day to day add up tremendously, right? So another way that I tell my clients, I say, look, you want to be able to work longer in your life and be productive and perform at a very high level for longer for a number of reasons. We were living longer. You make more money generally at the end of your career. So when you're really a big asset to your company or yourself or your own business and your employees, and you can create more wealth, you can do that sort of at the end of your career. And if you can extend that out at a very high level, why not? And the other thing that, we get feedback from a lot of our clients in their like mid to late 40s is there's a few realizations that happen around that age. And it's one of the main drivers is they see older relatives, specifically sometimes their parents, their health in decline, and it's terrifying, right? The generation before us, they're dealing with a lot of things that we're seeing now from either diet or lifestyle. And we now see that, and we know that there are ways to combat that. And we can mitigate those things now at a certain age. It's not too late to start it. So I think a lot of people see that at a certain age and they say, okay, I don't want that to be the burden my kids have to carry. I don't want to, kind of finish my life in a downward, cycle. Or let me avoid it as much as I can.
And I agree with the part where you said you realize these things later. And when you realize, most of the times, it's all done. So I get this part, and I believe the one thing that can help most people stop all this is resilience, right? If they have this grit and resilience to actually not only do their work, but also work out or do something for their health that can be helpful for them each and every day, because it's all about consistency. And I've never seen someone who just worked out for a year, made six-pack abs, and maintain it if they're not working consistently. It's all about consistency. So We got to run into a quick break, Chris, right now. And for everyone who's watching this TV show, when we come back, Chris will talk about the very topic we just discussed, which is why resilience matters more today than ever, and how Chris and his company is reshaping what fitness looks like for the future. So I'll see you right out of this break. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, on the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni, and we are back with Chris Cunningham. Me have him on the stage again. Here we go. So we were discussing with Chris, digging into why strength is about far more than just muscle. So, Chris, according to you, why do you think like strength is not just muscles, but it's far more than that? And how you guys are reshaping the future in terms of health and fitness?
Sure. So I think you bring up a good point about resilience and grit. And one of the things that we've really found with our clients is that they are not short of that. And we understand that willpower, it may, take up to about 5% of somebody to the end goal. And the rest really is systems and it's knowledge, right? And having an understanding of like your reasoning for why, your drives, much more than willpower. Willpower has a sort of end limit as to how far it can go. So when I say that resilience and grit are important, I mean in the way that you have to keep your consistency high. You touched on that a minute ago. That's a really big point because consistency of all other things that we factor in, whether that's programming design, how much weight you can move, how frequently you take steps, or how not frequently, but how many steps you take. If it's consistent across the board, that's the number one driver for success. And that compounds, right? So that's why we think consistency is really the key driver. Well, the data shows that. And that's a really big point for people to understand because I think the message coming across for most people, especially in the United States, is the harder you work, more is better, no pain, no gain. And it's not really the case. In fact, it's actually the opposite. And it's just not the mentality that most people have in a very high driven, high demanding career. Everything that they've done has to lead them to their success has been first one in the office, last one out, study more, study harder, work harder than the person sitting next to you. That's actually not working when they apply that same mentality to their fitness. It backfires. So we kind of reprogram that. We recode their performance, but it takes a little fine tuning and it takes a little time to sort of integrate that thought because it's so foreign to most clients' approaches.
And what's your take on resilience? Like how resilience plays a key role in all of this? How resilience play a key role in terms of understanding your body, understanding your work, and how to balance it as a CEO or a founder today?
Sure. Well, I think that resilience touches on your motivators, right? What are your key drivers? Because when you lean on those things, at the end of the day, I'm not the one who's waking you up in the morning, or I'm not the one who's nudging you to get workout in or to get your step count higher, right? It really comes from your internal drivers. And that's where resilience comes through because you have the opportunity at that moment to push it aside or to embrace it. And people who have grit and resilience generally embrace that because they know that the longer term outcome that they're trying to get to, the path isn't always easy and the path can be bumpy, but there is a course. And if there is like an internal driver, like I said, it's a lot easier to stay on the course. And I think that really manifests its way into business, into your career as an entrepreneur, as a founder. listen, I'm balancing the same thing myself, and there are days where I don't want to train. Um, and I understand that because I understand that it's a major factor in people's lives as well. Our clients see it, but you do it.
Well, yeah, I agree because I feel like, and here's what I usually do. I'm not sure if I can at this point do 7 days a week workout, but I try to at least do 3 or 4 times a week. And I'll be very honest, I was a freak 3, 4 years ago before COVID happened, and I used to work out almost every single day. And then when I didn't work out, I thought, okay, I didn't do something. But then work happened, you start to get busy, your schedule changes a bit, but then still I still have this commitment to this day to try to do at least 3 or 4 times a week. So if someone like me is doing 3 to 4 times a week, so what do you think about it? Like, is it still good, or is it something I should improve on?
Well, absolutely. So it's a case by case basis, but one of the things that we look at is minimal viable like outcomes, right? Well, what can you put in? But minimal, you're going to get some outcomes and some results from that, right? You can bring that higher if you need to. But I think the realization of say to yourself, having an honest conversation is okay, where am I at? What are my goals? Do I want to be a professional athlete? Am I going to get paid for this? Am I going to be a professional bodybuilder? Am I going to be a fitness model? Do I want to live longer? Am I signed up for a race later in the year? Because if you're signed up for a race, that's going to change your training regimen. It's going to change your training frequency, your modalities. If you want to lose weight because it's overall what you need to do to get your health in order and your metrics better, you have another pathway that you have to follow. So it's all very dependent upon your situation. But to answer your question, 7 days a week would be on the high end of things. I don't recommend weight training 7 days a week. It doesn't allow for sufficient recovery. So you end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot with that because you're not really getting anything out of it. But you also mentioned a good point where you did say that you didn't do something that day you felt off. And that's the key that we're striving for. It doesn't have to be time in the weight room or lifting weights or time taking a class or whatever it is that you're driven to do with your fitness. But if you're not active, if you're sitting kind of in a position where you weren't your usual um, driven self that day, or you didn't move a lot, and that feels off to you, that's a good spot to be in. You're in the pocket there. Like that's where you want to live.
So what if like you're into that position today? What would you do immediately if you were into that position?
I take a look at the week. I say, okay, what have I done the last 2 or 3 days? Why am I like a little lethargic today? Or why am I not motivated? What's coming up tomorrow in the next 3 days? If today happens to be one of those days where it's just not happening, but I have a good few days in front of me and cushion, and I've got a few days after where I know I've got some things scheduled. I might take it that day and just take it, and just life is life. Um, or if I had a previous few days where it wasn't so good and this is starting to trend downwards, I'd take a good hard look in the mirror and I'd say, well, what can I do right now? That's easy. That's an easy win that gets me going. That sparks, what I know is inside there somewhere, right? Maybe that's a 5 minute walk. Maybe that is just a conversation on a phone call with somebody that that you say, let me take this on the road. I'm going to get on my feet. And then, next thing you know, maybe it's a nice 20-minute, 30-minute conversations. You accomplish two things there. Connected with somebody socially, which usually generally helps if it's a friend. And two, you just got 20 or 30 minutes of walking in, which is never a bad thing, right? So these are the practical steps that you can take. It helps to have a coach alongside you to give you these tips along the way, which is one of the things that we found was a good fit for us to do with our clients.
Okay. And we talked about resilience and fitness. So to you, the big difference between physical resilience versus good fitness, what is that? And are both these factors like are with each other, or are these different from each other? What do you think?
No, I think that it sort of depends on how you define it, but I think I understand where you're going and what you mean. And I'll tell you what I think. I think that having a level of fitness, if it doesn't translate into real world action or resonate in the rest of your life, then it's not worth as much in my mind, right? And resilience to me means how long are you capable of doing something and doing something well, right? And how much adversity can you absorb? and still maintain top level performance or something close to that. And the correlation between fitness and business is very similar. And if you think about resiliency in business and resiliency in fitness, is we know that you're going to have bumps. Not everything works out all the time. You have highs, you have lows, but the point is you still are able to get through it, move past it. Any strategy that kind of gets you around and gets you where you want to go, and you're not quitting along the way. To me, that's resiliency. So for businesses that are kind of like flash in the pans that come and go, um, not knowing the circumstances of the business, but let's say that's the case. Generally, to me, that's not a very successful business. But things that can stick around and have some longevity and some life to them, that to me means there's some resilience there, and the character of that business and that founder are probably pretty intense, pretty good.
I agree. And it's all about having that willpower, having that uh, motivation to go up each and every day. So I'm going to give you an example of someone I really admire a lot. I'm not sure if you know, do you know Valentino Rossi?
I do know.
So, so Valentino Rossi is one of the greatest motorcycle racers. He's a 9 times world champion. And I was in third standard back in 2007 when I started seeing him on television. And he was what, I believe 29 or 30 years old at that time. And then he broke his leg after being a 9 times world champion. He didn't get his 10th world title because he broke his leg. Okay. Next year, what happened is, which I saw, he came back, and in the next race where he has this broken leg, he finished fourth, just missed out of the podium on the last lap. Okay. And then from 2010 until 2000, I believe 21, he kept racing. Out of that, he became 5 to 6 times more runner-up, and one time he came absolutely close to winning the championship again. What does that tell me? That tells me two things: physical resilience and mental power, willpower, right? So if you are a world champion, you know you're the best, and that keeps driving you. And if you want to actually take it to the next level, it's all about resilience, it's all about grit, it's all about passion and motivation combined. So to anyone who's watching the show, it's for you guys. If you see yourself in the mirror today, like Chris told, and you see that you're not there where you want to be, go out, go for a 5 minute nature walk, go out, maybe lift a weight, do 10 push-ups. It might lift you up, and then that consistency keeps taking you to next steps and next steps and next steps. So that's my take on that, and I believe uh, whoever's watching this show, they need to learn that, because that helps a lot, not just in fitness but also in business and in life. The
100%.
bad thing happened in the business today, try to close more clients, or maybe try to work on your systems. Just keep on acting on things that helps you improve the process instead of worrying about results, and things happen, right, Chris?
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So shifting gears before we go into a new break. So in your coaching, how do you balance the mental, emotional, and physical pillars of wellness? And which pillar do you think most people often ignore, Chris?
Great question. Um, so to directly answer your question, I think the pillar that gets often overlooked is emotional. Um, it is a tough balance, right? Which is why you have to kind of take the whole picture, um, take a look at your life, take a look at what your goals are, and take a look at your history and where you want to get to, and you formulate a good tight plan. But I think the emotional aspect of fitness is overlooked, and I think it's cultural. I think it's something that we just kind of set aside in our head because that has really nothing to do with my fitness. But I tell you that from my experience, it certainly does, because if you're having a bad day, if you're having an argument, or you're not in a good spot with your spouse or your partner or your kids or your boss or whomever in your life, that's kind of throwing you off a bit. Your emotions are not dialed in to where you'd like them. It definitely affects your training, and it definitely affects your motivation for training. I've seen that personally. I've seen that with clients. And I've seen a lot of people a lot of emotion come out of people when they train. For a fact, the number of times I've had people who really have just broken down during hard workouts where they're really pushing themselves mentally and physically. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they'll have like this emotional moment, and it's moving because it's real, and we don't really know exactly what the release is there, but something is in there and something is being released through this exertion of effort. And it's pretty amazing to see it, and most people squash that, so it's overlooked, I think, in my mind. If you had to pick one of those three, emotional.
So, Chris, agreed with the part where you described all these triggers. And I feel one of my biggest trigger would be if I'm not working out. I'll just tell myself, man, what you're doing. That's what I'll say. Like you said, what you'll say to yourself in the mirror if you're not getting where you want to. Well, I'll just talk to myself and then I'll do it the next day. Because if I don't do it, that builds a negative domino effect, and you don't want to go there. That stops you. That holds you back.
Yeah, and I've actually seen it reverse things pretty quickly too. I've had a lot of clients who will walk into a training session not ready to go, not in the mood, not mentally there, emotionally down a little bit. And I say, give it a shot. Let's go through some of the motions. Okay, let's just trust in the process here a little bit. And at the end of the hour or half hour or whatever it might be, they are back. Like they're firing. They're back to themselves. They say, I'm so glad I did that. I needed that. That was the catalyst to get my day back on track or get my week back on track, whatever it was. Um, so it's a powerful thing. It really is. And the problem is that if you get caught in a bad loop, it's tough to use that as the catalyst to get out if you don't have the strategy in place.
Okay. Okay, I'm loving it. But before going into the next break, I have one last question for you, Chris. What are some of the biggest myths people still believe about staying and getting healthy, according to you? Is there any myth that you see people talk about consistently? You feel like, yeah, that's not going to work, but yeah, let them think about it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's a lot. Where to start? Not really. Let me pick. Kind of put me on the spot. There are a lot. I would say that the myth that more is better, right? That's still one of those things that's floating around. Like you can never do enough, work till you're dead kind of thing. And we just know that's not the case. You just have data to prove that it's just not the right strategy. Your body has thresholds and limits, and there's a point of diminishing returns on that. And it becomes more of an ego thing than it becomes like a strategy thing. And unfortunately, that's what the culture of fitness has like permeated for the last 230 years. And we just know now that it's not the case, but it's still, pretty strong um, tenet built through. I don't know if it comes necessarily through just culture or fitness marketing um, or or a combination of the two. But I would say it's probably the top myth that is still floating out there.
Well, I'll keep asking you more minutes along the show, but we have to run into a quick break, and let's discuss more on this when we come back. So, let's run into a quick break, guys. And when we come back, Chris will share with you the background and education that makes him a different kind of a coach and the client story that stayed with him. So, on the other side, when we come back, it's going to be mentorship and coaching for you. I'll see you soon. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. So welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. And today we are with our special guest, Chris Cunningham, who isn't just a fitness expert. He's an educator at heart. And we have discussed a lot of things with him before the break. But let's talk about what brings to his coaching philosophy. So let me just have Chris on the stage again. Here we go. So Chris, let's talk about coaching. Let's talk about mentorship, right? How has your master's in education shaped your approach to coaching people towards lasting change? And how did you get into all of this?
Sure, thank you. So I think really what happened was that a lot of the similarities between coaching and education overlap. Um, I had not really seen that I was going to make the impact that I wanted to in the education system, and I thought that my drive and my passion towards fitness and utilizing movement as my methodology of teaching and coaching would be really the best fit for me long term. I started out coaching kids. I started out coaching kids kickboxing, and then I was offered a partnership in to grow that business and grow that gym, and then expanded and just saw the opportunity in the fitness business, which was expanding at the time in the early 2000s, sort of out of that old sort of big box gym method and moving into more boutique fitness. And I just kind of fell in love with the segment that I was in, and I really saw the impact on a day-to-day basis of what I was doing with my clients, which is, it's motivational and that's a driving factor. When you're starting out your career, seeing that you're actually really making a difference, like right there in front of you, which is pretty nice. Um, so yeah, that really was the crossover for me into fitness in the early stages of my career.
And according to you, like when designing programs, what's the one thing that you have never compromised on for the transformation? Because I believe, suppose if I'm working with you, right, I have different ways of doing stuff. My habits are a little different from an average person who does it, and we're all different, step by step. So, how you and your company, Foresight Health Coaching, how you tailor coaching programs per person? I saw the app, I know about the app, and I believe that's amazing. So, could you just shed light on that, please?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we see in the data and we see from our own experiences with clients and our own selves training is that the one metric that you can keep consistent, and it does a number of things, but if you can keep your form and your technique sharp and polished, you do a number of things. One, you accelerate your results. Two, you keep yourself further away from the one thing we're all trying to avoid, which is injury. Because if you bring injury in now, what is the one thing that's sabotaging immediately? Is consistency, right? So time off and time away from training and moving and being, the human, that you are, is always the thing that will set you back a bit. So form and technique are the main drivers for consistency and for success, right? So I've seen a lot of people who train hard and we make some tweaks to their training technique, and it unlocks some growth and some gains and some new results that they were hoping to get that they maybe not had gotten in the past. Um, and again, the biggest thing that does is if you're lifting weights or you're training hard and you have solid technique, it keeps you off the injured list, and that's really where you want to live. You don't want to be on that list, and you see that in professional sports, right? The main thing that they want to do is technique is not just for efficiency in movement and sport; it's also for avoidance of injury.
And I get it. Like, I know people, Chris, who have been in different places in terms of their fitness all their life, and they consistently get injured. And that keeps happening. So
Yeah.
if someone is actually going to the athlete route, if someone is actually training for maybe championship, or it could be sprint, it could be race, it could be marathon, if you are the trainer, right, just share from a mentor's brain or a coaching brain or a personal trainer brain, what would you do to help them avoid any injuries? Because when I used to play national cricket, I constantly kept getting injured. Sometimes my finger, sometimes I'm getting slammed with the ball on thighs, hamstring. These things happen, right? So, what would you suggest to someone who's training consistently? And now we're not just talking about beginners. Now we're talking about pro athletes. So, what's your take on that?
Well, there's another element that really comes into a professional athlete's life or a super high level athlete, and that's recovery, because that can make a big difference. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can apply to that, which will help keep you on the recovered side right? And away from the overuse and injured side. And, there are more advanced techniques for pro athletes. We use them and we incorporate them into our business as well. Um, but some of the things that you could do yourself that have trickled down into science really is like take the things that you can control and control them, right? You can control what time you go to bed at night to a degree. You can control what time you get up in the morning to a degree. And if you can't, there are techniques and ways in which you can control your sleep. You can control your sleep environment. You can control the things that you do prior, the few hours leading into your sleep. Those things are going to give you tremendous amount of gains in your recovery and in your training protocols for the following few days that come after that. So they're easy wins that most people can do. Again, nutrition plays a huge part in this as well. If you're consistently relying on your body to perform, but you're not putting proper fuel into it, and again, that's a whole nother conversation and another avenue to explore. But if you're not really handling the basics of nutrition, you shouldn't really expect much out of your body over the long term, especially as you age and especially as you train longer and longer. The compound effects of training are going to take its toll. Remember, when you train, you stress your body, right? But your body is resilient. It knows how to adapt to the training stresses. But if you just do that on an empty stomach or an empty tank or sleep deprived, the result and the outcomes usually are much, much more poor.
Talking about results, talking about clients. So, can you shed some light, Chris, on a client story that reminded you why you do this work? Like something that to this day inspires you, motivates you, seeing that result that you gave to someone else? And it could be something that's beyond just physical change. It could be a willpower that you have seen. Could you share a story or two with us?
Sure. Yes. I get asked this question from time to time. There's one story that always comes to mind. It was early in my career. I had started training this woman and she was in a pretty bad spot. She wanted to lose a lot of weight and her weight was taking a toll on her life, emotionally, mentally. She had been kind of like was at the end of her rope. She had tried a number of things, just weren't successful. And she came to me, and we had a good conversation about where she was and where she wanted to get to, and she knew it was going to be a tough road, and she committed. And the moment that I knew it was sealed was I was in the gym. I was in my gym, and I was by my front desk. It was a Saturday morning, this beautiful day, and a woman walks in and says, can I speak to Chris Cunningham? I said, oh, I'm Chris. And she said, you're Chris? I said, yeah. She walked around the front desk of the gym and walked behind the desk, and she just randomly gave me this big, humongous, loving hug. She wasn't threatening. She was an older woman, and she just hugged me. And I didn't even know who she was. I never met her. I never saw her. And she said, you helped my daughter. You may have saved her life. You changed her life. And I didn't really know exactly who she meant. And she said, my daughter Jen is a completely different person. She's so happy. I don't even know where to begin to thank you. And she started to kind of well up. And it's a moving, touching story. And it really stuck with me. It's still to this day, but it stuck with me at the moment because this was the reason that I got into this, business and this career. And like I said, I could see it on the ground face to face. Well, this is the moment that really solidified what I was doing. And I love that story. It sticks with me to this day because she put in the work. She did. She lived the life. She walked the path. I was just kind of there, guiding her and helping her. I was really moved and touched that it was able to work out, and I got that big hug from her mom. Plus, it's her mom. Like that matters a lot.
Here's what I've seen, Chris, listening to this amazing real life story, is that when you get moments like this, it inspires you to even do better. It inspires you to, it lights that fire in you that, okay, I've helped this person. Now my goal is to help more people. So, if you can just, before we run into another break, if you can just give us an idea of what the goal for Foresight coaching, health coaching looks like and what their mission looks like going into 2025 and 6.
Sure. So our goal is to touch more people. It's to be able to help more people and to scale what we do to a greater degree. So as a one-on-one coach, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many groups you can work with at a time. So being able to take the experience that we have and the knowledge that we've accumulated and to formulate it into proper training protocols that we can deliver, proper lessons to educate our clients with the stuff that they need. There's a lot of information out there. So we really distill that down for them and deliver to them what's important. You don't need to know what every single fitness influencer is doing or every single diet that exists out there. And you don't really need to know every single training protocol. You need to know the ones that work for you. So my job is to go out and figure that out for you after we speak, after I find out who you are, what you're trying to do, and what your history is like. And I can get that consolidated down for you and deliver that to you the best way. The reason that we stay on board and coach you through that is because things come up, things change, goals change. You have ebbs and flows in the course of the year. So we want to be able to coach you through that, make the adjustments as you go, because that's what we do. It's very hard to do that by yourself. So we can make adjustments to your programming. You could say, listen, I got a big business meeting I've got to get to. I got to be on a red-eye flight, and I've got a 2-day layover, and your time zones, and you train. What do? I coach you right through that. Make adjustments in your programming, give you strategies and protocols for recovery, for hydration, for how to eat on the road, where to do your workouts when you're staying in hotels, or how to manage that. All right, because these are things that come up, especially if you're in business. So to let your fitness go and your health go, just because you run into those, they're bound to happen. It becomes you don't want that to happen, right? Again, it gets into the thing that we talked about earlier, consistency. And that's when people start to push their health to the back burner, which is what we talked about earlier. When you can get yourself out of that, you can prioritize these things into your day because you have a support system to lean on. It makes it doable. Like you can really get through it and be successful at it. And it doesn't become this extra burden layered on top of your day. Oh, I've got to get to the gym. Oh, I forgot to work out. Oh, I've got to make sure I get enough sleep. It just kind of becomes natural because we built it into your life in a way that's sustainable. And that's really the magic of it.
And also, that's the magic of consistency. That's the magic of actually putting in the action. Because there's something about human mind that if you sleep around 9 or 10, you automatically get to sleep, right? And then at around 5 or 6, you can just wake up. There's something that is in our human mind that happens consistently if you do it. But then suddenly, like me, if you go to sleep at 1 and you just wake up at 6 a.m., that's me. But that varies person to person because I take a nap. I take a power nap in the day, like a 30-minute nap that energizes me. So it depends on person to person, but it's got to be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And these are the
Perfect.
things that we help you through because everyone's life is different. Everyone's schedule is different. We recognize that. We're not trying to put anybody in a box, and which is what most, the fitness industry kind of tries to do. We don't think that works.
It doesn't. It's not sustainable. It doesn't. It has zero long-term benefit if you just do it for the sake of doing it. You have to have a proper routine and discipline with that, and that's what I've learned. So we got to run into another break, guys. And when we come back, Chris will share with us the trending things that's happening in terms of personalized programs and health and fitness. And when he comes back, he'll also share with us his personal stories, philosophies, and the powerful lessons that drive him. So see you right out of this short break. As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high-impact marketing and scroll-stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you. Welcome back to the Our Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host, Rohit Soni. And today we have Chris Cunningham, and let's bring it home, the personal side of Chris's mission right away. So, Chris, tell us a little bit more about the pivotal moment in your life that really drove you home, why health matters on such a deep level. Was there anything that you saw other than what you just shared in the beginning of the episode? What has been that personal mission for Foresight Health Coaching?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So it's two-part. When I was 18, I looked around and I took a look at my family. I had no living grandparents. I had no like old gray-haired aunts and uncles telling me stories, and I wondered why. Um, because I had a lot of friends in college who had grandparents come visit, and we just had a poor family history, and it was manageable. Like it was something that I could do something about at 18. So that's really when I looked at what is diet? What is nutrition? What does it mean to eat right? What does it mean to exercise? I mean, I played sports my whole life, but I didn't really put it all together. And I didn't even know it was something that you could do as a career, to be honest with you. So fast forward, I'm in my career. I'm into my third gym at this point, I believe it was, and I have a stroke. In 2010, I had a stroke on Tuesday morning in the gym, and I had what's called an ABM, and it ruptured. Thank God it was very minimal. I just had a bleed. It wasn't a burst. It most likely would have been fatal. But it did knock me out for 9 months, and partially lost. Well, I lost most of my eyesight for almost a year. And I was told by the doctors when I asked about recovery and after some surgeries, I said, what does this look like for me? I couldn't drive. I couldn't live alone. I couldn't stay home. I couldn't work. I certainly couldn't work out. And, they said, listen, you're kind of glad to be, you should be lucky that glad that you're alive. You're lucky to be alive. And I just didn't accept that answer. I thought I was seeing the top doctors in the world on this, and I didn't accept that. I don't think they really knew who I was, and I just don't like to be told kind of what to do. And I didn't think that that was going to work for my life. So I kind of trained my way out of it. I started doing drills from the ground up. Like, what could I do that I could start to get my eyesight back and get my vision back and not have this blind spot that I was kind of like, that had shown up in my visual field. So I started real basic stuff, tracking a soccer ball, hitting a speed bag, walking on a beach because I wasn't going to bump into anything. I wasn't going to not see a car that might come across and hit me. I wouldn't see it. So I trained myself out of it. And to me, that was a like a mission that I was on for a little while, a personal mission to get myself back to a position where I could go back to my life. Right. I wasn't really necessarily thinking what was this going to be my outcome long term. I just want to get back to who I was because that was taken from me. And what I realized at the end of that process was that, you never really know what's coming down the pipeline. I was fit. I was in shape. I was training plenty. My nutrition is really on point, and it has been. And that really is one of the things that also helped me get me through it. All those philosophies, all that stuff was kind of built into who I was. So when I really had to lean on it, it wasn't that hard. It was already in place, and it got me through that, and it pulled me out of it. And I'm here sitting in front of you talking to you. I have no issues. I have no visual issues. I trained just as hard as I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. Maybe a little smarter than I was at the time. But my point is that it allowed me to see the value of fitness in a different way, not so much from aesthetics, not so much from a performance standpoint, but from a life-saving standpoint. And when you need to lean on that, if you don't have it, it's really hard, and it's more than hard. It's extremely difficult, and I've seen people get injured who don't have that, and it's heartbreaking. It's tough because now you're fighting two things, and and for me, if I can give that message to people, I don't talk about that too often, but if I can kind of push that through my coaching and my business and my training and my mission in life, and that helps somebody, then that's what we're here for. That's why I do it. Um, so that's a big piece of like what's still driving me to this day to do what I do.
Well, Chris, that's an inspiring journey, and I didn't even know about it till now. And we've been working for what, almost 7, 8 months. So I believe it's all about having that rep in your mind, knowing that if you are able to make a muscle and make it look good, you got to do reps every single day. So if you're feeling that your eyesight is a little weak, You just do the reps to make sure the normal things are getting back to normal, right? So that even if you're seeing a screen, it gets better. But you're doing the process, you're in the process, and that will to not give up. This helps you out in those tough situations because you're not have been programmed for years to train yourself. Now you can just incorporate those things in other areas of life, and that's an amazing mission. I'll be very honest, right? That's the mission that drives results. That's the mission that transforms people. That's the mission that people come to your office and then argue because you transform someone their children's life. Very simple. So I really love that, my friend. And if you could change what major misconceptions society has about fitness or health, according to you, what would be that, Chris?
That's an excellent question, and I think it's complex. I think it's a complex industry. I think um, there's a lot of mistrust in our business because there's a lot of information, right? And who do I get that information from? And I think that if you can keep your eye on the ball as to what's important to you and why you train and your drivers, you'll kind of gravitate towards the right people to help you make those decisions and coach you through it. I think that having a coach is underrated. And I think it's sort of looked at as a luxury. Um, but if you look at all the great athletes and even great financial leaders, world leaders, and a lot of those people are kind of behind the scenes, but you'll find if you do a little research that they had coaches with them. They've had advisors. Like they didn't get through it themselves. So having a coach, it allows you to do a couple things. It takes a little burden off your plate, and it allows you to put your bandwidth for your business and your family and your priorities, whatever they might be, where they should be. And it says, I'm going to lean on this person to help me with this aspect of my life. I'm going to get an expert in here, work with me, and get me where I want to go. And I think that's a powerful thing. Um, and I think that the industry sort of looks at it like it's a luxury, and I think that it needs to look at it like it's a necessity. I mean, we're in a position in the world where it's sort of a paradox, and we have this unbelievable amount of wealth, and we have access to it now. I'm sorry, information and wealth, but we have access to it. We can see this stuff. We can go and find research and data, and we have amazing people in the field who are doing this work, and they're very transparent with what they're finding. But we're not able to apply that to our life every day yet because there's some sort of gap in how it's making its way into the daily lives of people. And I think that that's because we have moved from a position where we moved a lot for necessity. Our jobs were mobile, our jobs were physical, our jobs were demanding, and we didn't need to focus on our fitness for a long time. It just kind of took care of itself. Now we really need to put this in the spotlight because we do a lot of sitting down. We do a lot of desk work. We do a lot less manual work and more intellectual work. And we need to reconnect to our human movement and our human animal to keep that, because that's the essence of who we are. That's how we got here. If you look historically across humanity, we've always progressed because we were mobile and we could move, and we were smart. We need to leverage that intelligence now and incorporate those things that we've learned about ourselves and the knowledge base that we have for our fitness and our health, and make it a priority. Because if we don't take care of that right now, we're going to see these other numbers, these metabolic conditions increase across the board, and we're already seeing it. It's not a new thing that we're noticing it much more now, and it's coming into conversation. But we really need to apply some strategies now to avoid it, and to knock it down a little bit.
Yeah. And it's all about, at the end of the day, Chris, like I said, it's all about strategies. It's all about the desk work and making things more, I'll say, intellectual. So when you actually put results, you know what to do the right way, not the wrong way. So I believe this is the last question for the day. And it has been an amazing chat. I thought we had more time. So for someone feeling overwhelmed today, Chris, and unsure where to start, what's your first and the most important step for them to begin their journey with Foresight Health Coaching?
Well, if you want to reach out to me, you certainly can. You can find us at foresighthealthcoaching.com. That's our website. And what we do with you is we'll take you through a little discovery call, and we get to know you, sort of like what we're doing right now, through a video call, and we'll piece out like what you've got happening and how we can support you. The biggest thing that I tell people to do before that call is to just kind of figure out where you're at and where you want to go, right? If you tell me on the call, or we speak prior to that, you want to lose 10 pounds by tonight, I might not be the best person for the job, right? We're looking at the long game here. You'll see a lot of stuff in our website and in our documents regarding longevity. And longevity for us is not about just a number off in the future that you want to try to live to. We don't know what that number is going to be. Science hasn't pinpointed that. We don't know what exact things we can do today to get that number to a specific point. But we do know that there are practices that we can do today that will give us longevity now, right? What matters is the quality of what we have now that we can control. And that's our view and our approach to longevity. So you can come into that and you take a look at where you are now in your life, where you want to be, what the next few months, years look like. Internally, that's an important conversation to have, because there's your motivational drivers right there. And I'm going to ask you about those when we talk, because, again, I'm not the person who's waking you up to go train. I'm not the person who's going to nudge you. You have to do it yourself. Those are the things that you're going to lean on when times get tough. That is the thing that shows your resilience. And most people have them. They're complex. They're complicated. I'm not trying to say that they're easy or simple, but they're there. And when you discover them, it makes the path much clearer, much easier. And again, you just find things you like to do. If we are a good fit for you, I'd love to speak to any of your guests and any of your viewers. But if it's not a practical situation for you, find someone you trust. Find somebody in your neighborhood. Find a local owner-operated gym who has your best interest at heart, who is in your community. Because those people, 95%, 99% of the time, are value-driven, and they're motivated to better the world and their specific community around them.
Yeah. So the main goal of Foresight Health Coaching is to first let people start somewhere, so that we can take you from one place to another. 100% agree.
Yeah, we want to simplify your life. We want to distill information down for you. We want to get you on a good systems pathway so that you can get this incorporated into your daily life. We want to teach you a few things along the way and have some fun.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Chris, for being on the show today, my friend. It was not just inspiring. To be very honest, I learned a lot. You didn't just bring depth, but you also brought a lot of purpose to this conversation. And I'll just say we wish Foresight Health Coaching a lot more success with what you guys are doing for more transformation around the world. And for anyone who wants to connect with Chris, we'll put all the details below to connect with him on a call as well if you want to have a strategy session. And then you guys can figure from there. Thanks a lot, Chris, for being on the show today, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Love it. So this is it for the Empower Entrepreneur TV show for this episode. I'll see you next week, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Till then, keep making those big moves. It's all about your health at the end of the day. Success isn't for the chosen few. It's for those who choose to show up, take action, and never back down. This is the Empower Entrepreneur, hosted by Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks, and 100 plus podcast stations. You've heard the strategies, you've seen the mindset. Now it's time to execute. I'll see you next week, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. Go, build, dominate. Until next time, stay empowered.